me, what is the date this morning? I quite surprised myself when I looked at the date. I had not realized that today was Halloween. And so I was going to tell a different story. However, now I'm not. It's like I'm going to just, I've got two iPads going on here. It occurs to me I've not put the do not disturb on. So as I'm talking to you, and while you're all getting yourself together and settled and all of that stuff, what am I doing? Yes, oh, that's right. I've got to do this. Give me 1 second, everybody. Oh, I'm so bad. I'm so disorganized. But I just want to put on my do not disturb because, and I'm going to tell you why that is. Because a few minutes ago, just before we were due to come on the air, my daughter called, and I had obviously forgotten to put the do not disturb, so she managed to get hold of me. And my grandson was all set to watch the show this morning, which I love him to do. And he asked me if I was going to tell a Halloween story, and a spooky Halloween story. And I was going to tell, as I said, a different story, but I don't want him to watch this one. So I'm going to give you a heads up, everybody out there. If you've got young children, you might want to consider not letting them watch this story, because it was requested that I should tell a spooky story. Now, you all know that I don't believe in ghosts, so it's hard for me to tell a ghost story because I don't believe in ghosts at all. I believe in people. I believe in those in the spirit world, and in fact, I might be switching the story in my mind. What do you think, Chris?
I'm sure whatever story you come up with will be just perfect.
Well, I know, but the one that I was going to tell, well, here's the thing. I'm now debating with myself and with Greg. I'm asking Greg's opinion here. So, okay then. So, all right, right. So I think we're on track here. I was going to tell you a story this morning. I got it all set in my mind to tell you this story, and then somebody said it's Halloween, and I looked at the date and I realized it's Halloween, and I should be telling you a spooky story. So that's what I'm going to do. So okay, so once upon a time, and this story is relatively recent. We don't have to go back 20 or 30 years for this story. So once upon a time, oh gosh, I almost want to say in the olden days, as I do with my grandson when I'm telling him stories about myself, but we're not in the olden days. A few years ago, I was in Florida, and I was asked if I would become involved with a story that was a pretty nasty story. And I'm now changing my mind again. Forget what I just said. Oh my gosh, who will ever want to come and watch this story time with me? Now, I can't tell you that story because it's too scary. Too sort of, no, it's too scary. So this is what I'm going to do, change my mind once again. How are you enjoying the show this morning, Chris, so far?
Well, Rosemary, this is your life. These are the things that happen. They happen to all of us. We all change our minds. So this is
All right.
great.
Well, you're being very nice to me, but anyway, for those of you who are getting impatient, okay, I'm going to tell you a story. I'm not going to be influenced by Halloween because apparently I don't believe in ghosts. So, but people ask me all the time, how does a medium work, and what goes on when when you sort of when a medium is working, and how things happen. And every medium and every person who's involved in this work or works in this way works differently. We all of us have our own way of working. But the way that I work is in some ways very unique, extremely unique. And I've never ever heard anyone else talk about this. And I've never ever heard of anybody else sort of having these weird experiences that I have, which is, which is normal for me. Because I am in many ways very different from other mediums. So So once upon a time, um, I was talking with Grey Eagle. Now, what I'm going to talk to you about did not happen immediately. It took experience. It took uh, it took knowledge. It took my being comfortable with myself, and it took my being able to trust. One of the biggest leaps of faith that I ever made was the very first time that I went astral traveling. And I had been all set to go astral traveling several times. And at the last minute, got scared and said, no, 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 I've changed my mind. I've changed my mind. Now, you can think, what is she talking about? She gets scared. Uh, I've already told you I don't believe in ghosts, right? So how can I be scared of ghosts or anything, ghost schools or things that go bump in the night? How can I be scared of those if I don't believe in them? But I think, like everyone, I think we're all of us scared somewhat when we're having different experiences, and many people have been astral traveling. Many people claim to have been astral traveling, and who knows? I'm very skeptical. So I'm only speaking of my own experiences. And when I start to tell you what happens to me when I go astral traveling, it might be a very, very different experience than somebody else's. So it's sort of when I'm conscious of it, when I'm aware of it happening, because sometimes it happens and I'm not even conscious until I find myself, somewhere else. But when I'm conscious of it happening, which is quite often, it's sort of the closest I've ever come to describing it was I was once on an aeroplane and I was waiting for the plane to take off. And I was tired. And I happened to put my head on the side of the aeroplane. And the plane was sort of, the motors were going and so on. And I could feel this vibration. I could feel the vibration of the plane sort of through my head, but it went all the way through me. And when I go astral traveling, it's sort of like it's a very strange humming sounds, really strong humming sound, and this incredible vibration that literally starts sort of within me, and it's a sort of a humming which gets louder and louder, and the vibration gets stronger and stronger to the point where the vibration is even in your teeth. It's even in my teeth, my jaw, my gums. The vibration is, literally sort of everywhere. And then it's almost as if something inside of me is revving up to go. And it sounds weird, I know, and you can imagine that there are many times that it happened that at the last minute I would say to Grey Eagle, I want to do this, I want to experience this. And then as soon as we would start to do it, I would get scared and say, yeah, but not now. I've changed my mind. I don't want to go now. And the very, very first time that I actually allowed myself to go astral traveling, it was, I said to Grey Eagle, all right, but of course, stipulating, all right, but I don't want to go very far. I want to go far. Don't take me too far, because I was afraid that I might not come back, I suppose. And so all of these things happened to me, and as I say, that was one great leap of faith when I said to Grey Eagle, I'm in your hands, but don't take me too far. And there have been other circumstances as well when I've said, just okay, but don't take me too far. I don't want to go too far, or I don't want to do too much of this, or can we start off gently with this experience? And gradually over the years, rather than having visions or seeing things happening or being shown, it's almost like being shown a movie or being shown a picture of some kind that goes before your eyes, and then being able to describe what's happening. Over the years, it began to feel differently, and I began to feel differently. And there was a point, and I cannot even remember when that point was, but there was a point when Gregel said, okay, let's do this properly then. Let's go to the next stage. Let us show you how this can happen and how you can see what is happening. For instance, if someone has been in a road accident, or if someone had a seizure, or if I was talking to somebody about the renovations in their house, or needing renovations in their house, and rather than being shown these sort of pictures, if you like, or being shown like a movie, Gregel decided that it would be much better, and it is much, much better, much, much clearer, if I could be present at the scene of the accident, for instance, or if I could be present at the scene of the fire, or if I could be present in someone's house and actually go into someone's house and literally move around and see and get a better and a clearer picture of what is happening, what is being said, and so on. Now, I know this sounds very weird to many of you. How can I be sitting on this sofa, for instance, or how can I be sitting, or how can I be standing in a room filled with, maybe there might be 1,000 people or 2,000 people in a room, and so how can I be there with the audience and at the same time be somewhere else? And all I can tell you is that it is actually possible to do it, because I've done it. And the only way that I can describe what happens to me, it's almost as if when you have an out-of-body experience, you would think, wouldn't you? And again, I'm only talking about myself. I'm not talking about anybody else's experiences or the way that anybody else does it. I can only tell you what happens to me. And so what happens to me is, you'd think that I would be going forward, right? That I would be moving forward and coming out of my body, moving forward. But in fact, what happens is that, and I can feel it, literally feel myself being taken back, coming out of my body backwards, almost as if, and it doesn't matter if I'm sitting down. It doesn't matter if I've got a cushion behind my back. It doesn't matter if I'm in bed. None of that matters. It is the etheric body, the spirit body, my spirit body is able to shift, to move, and to come out of my physical body. So I call this thing, I always refer to it as going back and down and through the hole. And I know, what can I tell you? But that is what happens to me. And so my spiritual body moves out of the physical. I'm still aware, still conscious of everything that's going on in a physical sense. But my spirit body is often moving and going back out of my body, and then somehow going down. I can only describe the feeling to you as going down, and then through the hole. Now, so sometimes when you read my books, I will talk to you about going, and I'll say quite simply, I went back and down through the hole, and people probably wonder what on earth it is I'm talking about. Again, years and years ago, my first, when we opened our first healing center, when people would come, we'd give them healing, and then we'd all sort of, those who wanted to stay would sit around, we'd have a cup of tea and some cookies or something, biscuits, and then we'd, we'd chat, and the patients could sit and ask any questions they liked. And one time we had this fantastic guy who came to us. He first of all he said, "I've come for healing, but I'm not coming for you to cure me because I'm dying and I know it, and I know there's nothing you can do about it. But I want to experience healing." And he then, as we were sitting around afterwards, having our tea, he said to me, Rosemary, I'm really fascinated about Gregor. Can I ask him a question? And I said, absolutely. And he said, can Gregor tell me what the universe is like? And I'm thinking, what? What's he talking about? Gosh, it's going to take far too long. That we'd only got half an hour. It's going to take far too long for that question. But Grey Eagle, as always, put his hand on my shoulder and he chuckled in my ear and he said, no, it's an easy question to answer. The universe is like holes in a cheese. So for all of you out there, you scientists, and all of you out there who are sort of wanting to know more about the universe, universal energy, and so on, you might be interested to learn that. And I knew straight away what Gregor meant, because so there are some cheeses, I think that I can't remember all of them, but there's an Emmenthal cheese that has, it sort of looks like it's got air bubbles through it or something. But there are certain cheeses that, for instance, Stilton, that they, in order to get the effect and get the taste, they put hot wires through the cheese. So you've got a ball of cheese like this, and then these hot wires go through at different places, different angles, and so on. And so if you can imagine that the universe is, we talk about the moon being made of cheese, don't we? But if you can imagine the universe like this round sphere, like a big round cheese with holes going through it, and those holes, some of them go parallel, some of them join, some of them cross this way, some of them cross that way. This is our universe, and as Gregor described it, like holes in a cheese. So when I am moving, and when I'm experiencing this going back and down and through the hole, we're talking about going through the holes in the cheese. And that can take you back through time. It can take you back through space. What can I tell you? I'm weird. It's weird. The whole thing is just ridiculous and impossible. And yet I can tell you that I've done it, and it is in fact possible. And so when I'm talking to someone and something's happened to them, for instance, I can literally, as I'm talking to someone, I can literally have this experience of moving back and down and through the hole, and I can be in their house, I can be in their kitchen, I can be in their kitchen and looking at the tile. Oh, you've got a cracked tile on the left hand side of the sink, and so on and so forth. You can see in the most incredible detail what is going on, and how how that person lives. And you can often see the dust mites under the bed. Yes, be careful, everybody, because the spirit world, the spirit world does see everything, just to let you know. But then, thank goodness, they're not judging us, right? But when you go down and back and through the hole, you're able to see in a different way. And very often when this happens to me and I go down and back and through the hole, it's and I go back in time and space, and I can be there at the side of the road watching this car accident. I can be there even before the accident happens. I can, as an observer, I can stand and I can watch all of this happening. I can see when someone passes into the spirit world, I can see the process of that. And I'm not just able to see the physical things that happen, I'm also able to see, for instance, I'm able to see the etheric body leave. I'm able to see the rising of the spiritual body coming out of the physical body. Sometimes I'm able to see the angels that come for us. Sometimes I'm able to hear the family of that person who have come to help that person to cross into the spirit world. And it means basically that I can see sometimes in the most minute detail, um, what has happened, and then of course, okay, I can go back and down and through the hole and through time and space. Does this mean then that I can also go the other way and not only see what has happened, but can I also see what will happen and what in fact can happen in this way? Can I see into the future doing it this way? And of course, the answer is yes, because if you can go back in time, if you can move about in time, if you can sort of wriggle about in time, you can also go forward and see certain things about the future, and you can see certain things that sometimes you maybe don't want to see. And sometimes knowing about the future and knowing what happens, it can be perhaps even more scary than the idea of going back and down and through the hole, because there are things about the future that we don't necessarily always want to see. So this is, I suppose, I can't say that it's the life of a medium because it isn't, but this is my life, and this is often the way that I do things. And as weird and as strange as it might seem, those of you who know more about science than I ever will, and those of you who know more about the workings of the universe and how it works, those of you who perhaps know will understand exactly, as this man in our healing center did. As soon as Grey Eagle said, "The universe is like holes in a cheese," he just smiled and said, "And that's what I thought." So he's confirmed my thoughts. So it's, even though it's a weird concept for those ordinary folks uh, like myself, who really, science was never my best subject in school anyway. But for us who are sort of ordinary and have trouble sort of perhaps understanding scientific concepts, for us it might be difficult. For those who are scientists and for those who sort of know more about the structure of the universe and so on, for those of you who know that, you'll understand it perfectly clearly. So another detail, which is maybe a little bit spooky, so I'm going to be, I'll talk to you a little bit about this as well, and then I'm going to let you have your comments and questions, and don't question me on science, please. Although you can question Greg, because he seems to know so much more. But when we see the ghost, right, that spooky thing, we imagine, most of us imagine, that if we see a ghost, that we're going to see this sort of, either this wispy bit of energy that floats around. There are mediums who will say that children don't have bodies. There are mediums who say that people don't have bodies, which is not the way that I see things. As I've said, different mediums work on in different ways. But we do have, when we leave this earth, we have our etheric body, our spirit body, which is the same shape, the same size, but very different than the physical body. Now we know, although we look at ourselves, we don't see that we're however many parts, liquid, fluid, or whatever. But science tells us that we've got more liquid than we've got actual sort of skin and bone. Or should I say bone anyway? But the etheric body, same shape, same size, is so much more solid and so much more real. So when we think about ghosts, very often when people see a ghost, or they think they've seen a ghost, very often this ghostly apparition will come almost as a light, sometimes as a white light, and it seems to sort of move and float and so on. What you're actually seeing is the aura, or the energy field, that surrounds that person who is within the light, the person you call the ghost and I call the person. And so when we know also, science also tells us that this world that we live in is an illusionary world. It's it's made up of trillions and however many trillions and millions of rectangular shaped molecules that somehow, because of the energy that we have here, lock together. And this is this, you know, this appears then to as a solid. So we have solid walls in our houses, we have solid floors, we, you know, we see the world in solid form. And when you see that, and if you're looking for a ghost, and tonight if you're out ghost hunting, and good luck with that, because there are no such things as ghosts. But anyway, you could try. If you go out ghost hunting, or if you're on a ghost hunt or a ghost tour or something like that, if you look for light, because this is how we should see them mostly, if you look for the light or the aura, or that shimmery, sometimes it's shimmering and sometimes it can be solid, but what you're actually seeing is, you're not necessarily seeing the ghost, you're seeing the energy field or the aura that surrounds that person. And when you see the ghost walking through the wall, we imagine that the ghost must be of no real substance. We imagine it to sort of, if we grabbed hold of it, it would sort of, you know, to be nothing there. But yeah, but Greg was putting his hand on my shoulder. Trust me, they're very, very solid. But what we're seeing is, we're imagining, we're thinking that the wall is solid, therefore the ghost walking through the wall is you know, is made of not really much substance. In fact, it is the wall that is of no substance. If we move the energy, change the energy, those rectangular shaped molecules lock together, you know, they're really, it's just energy holding it all together. The ghost, so to speak, can just come straight through with no hindrance whatsoever. So it is not that the ghost seeps through the wall because it's of no substance. It is the solid form, the etheric body of that person in the spirit world. And most people are not able to see necessarily so clearly, but they can see the glow, the energy field that's around. So on your ghost hunting trips tonight, when you are looking for ghosts and ghouls and things that go bump in the night, remember that there is so much more to this than meets the eye. I would not suggest that you try to go back and down and through the hole. And I don't know of anybody else who's done it. I'm not saying people don't. I just don't know of anybody who's done it like that. For those of you who have had out-of-body experiences, or want to experience an out-of-body moment there, you know, be like me. Don't be afraid to be afraid, because I'm a scaredy cat, and I would rather do it when I feel comfortable than be just thrown into it and out of my depth with it. And so when you're out and you're doing your ghost hunts and so on, if you do see anything that is sort of a bit ghostly, a bit sort of, you know, out there with the lights, sometimes we see the lights in colours, sometimes we see the white light, which sort of some people will describe a ghost. That's why we have ghosts dressed in sheets when we out with our Halloween and we want to pretend to be a ghost. We put a sheet over our head. Just remember that beyond the light and beyond the flickering or beyond anything you might see when you're out there tonight, behind all of that, or amidst all of that, is a person who is trying to let you know that, hey, hi, can you see me? Because I can see you. So I've skipped about today with story time. I've talked about going back and down and through the hole. I've talked about astral travel, and I've talked about ghostly, spooky things, and being able to understand that it is not a white sheet or a white light that you're seeing. Please remember that within that light, within that energy that you're seeing, is a person trying to say hello to you or trying to connect with you. So enjoy your spookiness tonight, enjoy your trick and treating or whatever that is that you do, and remember, the spirit world sees all. So if you want to see them, you have to put it out there to them. I'd really love to see you. I'd really love to connect with you, and then watch very, very carefully. I've seen many apparitions. Maybe another time when I'm sure my grandson isn't watching, I'm going to tell you some perhaps a little bit of scary stuff, like the time I went to the Ringling Museum. Yes, and yes, I saw someone there. I've told the story of when I went to the Ringling Museum before, but there are many stories because I've been many times, and I did see a very, very scary lady there who was frustrated and angry and so on, and that in itself was a spooky, spooky story. Ghosts are everywhere. I don't believe in ghosts. Those in the spirit world are everywhere. They're trying to connect with us in the best way they can. So please enjoy your Halloween and think of what I've told you. Look for the light, look for the auras, look for the energy fields. You never know what you might see when you do that. And by the way, you don't need to go to a graveyard to see it. They're everywhere. The end. Chris.
Well, that last bit of "they're everywhere," boy, that'll make us think, won't it?
Oh, I don't know. I hope so. All right. So, do we have any comments? Do we have anything going on there? You feel a little bit faint. If you could sort of get a bit closer to the microphone, that would be great for me.
Okay. Heidi was very kind in the beginning when you were deciding which story to choose. She said, "You tell us whatever story you want to."
That's so nice. Thank you.
We do have a couple of our Spanish and Italian friends on who are writing in their language, and so sorry, but could you please write in English?
Yes, it's no good writing to us in Spanish. Chris doesn't speak Spanish, doesn't read Spanish. The same goes for English, German, French, you name it. You can go to Google Translate. If there is anybody out there who can translate what we're saying, we'd love you to put the translation up in the chat room for us, so that those people who are writing to us in another language, all you have to do is Google Translate it. Apparently, it's a very easy thing to do. And if you do that for us, then we can include you and we can, take your questions and all that stuff. Right, Chris?
All right, so basically everybody's coming in with a question that they want answered for themselves. So no real other comments.
Right. Well, we would like some comments on the story. While we're waiting for maybe one or two of those, we do have a couple of announcements to make, right, Chris? So I'm going to let you make them because I've forgotten what it is I'm supposed to be saying. We are having a competition, I understand, right?
Yeah, so shortly after this broadcast, we will be putting up a contest on Facebook. Look for Healing the Self contest, that post. So when you go to Rosemary's Facebook page, find the Healing the Self contest post, like it, share it to all of your friends, tag Rosemary, and on Thursday, November 19th, which is right before the Healing the Self webinar, we will randomly choose one name for a free ticket. I know some of you are thinking, what if I already purchased my ticket? It's easily enough to refund the price for you. So
Well, we
we're
can actually, Chris, we can actually refund your ticket price, or we can just give you the opportunity to take the next webinar for free. So one way or another, we can do that for you.
There we go. So look for that shortly after the end of this broadcast.
Right. Don't we also have to say, am I supposed to say welcome to everybody on LinkedIn?
You should. That's new news that you're showing up on LinkedIn with your articles that you're going to be doing weekly.
Yes, I'm going to be on, well, I am on LinkedIn. and I'm also going to be on, what is it, Medium magazine. That doesn't mean medium in terms of me. I think it's just a medium for people to share different things about themselves. So whatever genre you can choose. But yes, I'm hopefully going to be putting something up there, an article up there on LinkedIn. It's hard to say, but anyway, I'm going to be doing that hopefully once a week. I've already written one article, and some people might be surprised when you read that article. You might be very surprised to learn that yes, I do give advice to corporations, and I do give advice to businesses, and I've been doing it for, oh gosh, many years, and even to giving advice about land and property and so on. And a lot of people do actually come to see me for consultations, wanting to know about business and wanting to know if they can improve their business, and if so, how, wanting to know about certain people. And I do love this side of things because in all businesses, we have trouble with employers or employees, and how can we avoid those problems? And of course, soul science comes into its own for that. So anyway, just want to say welcome to all of you on LinkedIn. I'm not good at it. You say it, Chris.
LinkedIn. Yes.
LinkedIn. And so, welcome to you all, and connect. You can also connect with my Facebook page, with YouTube, and Twitter. Almost forgot Twitter. So, all right, keep going, Chris, then. Let's go.
All right. Well, Suzanne says she loves the story. What a fantastic visualization of cheese.
Yes, I did like that. I must say, when Gregor said that, I remember all these years ago saying that. I'd never had that concept in my head at all. But when he said it, it made so much sense. It really did make so much sense. So, and all these years later, it still makes sense. Right. Keep going, Chris.
Mary's saying, thank you for the story. And Jeff is saying, happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Ravi saying, very informative story time. I learned a lot. Thank you very
Oh, good.
much.
And who else have we got there, Chris?
Isa is asking.
I know that it takes you a little while to scroll up and down. So if there are some silences, do forgive us. Keep going, Chris.
Yeah, Isa's asking, is there a specific meditation to get to be able to become observer?
Is there a specific meditation to be able to become what?
The observer. You said if you were at the side of the road, you were the observer.
Oh, an observer. Not that I know, and if there were, I would not tell you what it is, because I don't think it's sensible for those who don't know what they're doing. I really don't think it's sensible for you to want to flit about the universe and flit about through time and space without any thought. And this is the weirdest thing about me, I have to say. One of the weirdest things about me is this. I've never really had to sit down and learn to do this. When we began, way at the beginning, when we began with what we called, we had classes, and we had what we called development classes, and they were just for me to develop my abilities. It became very obvious very quickly that it's a little bit like the best way I can describe it is a little bit like you get a champagne bottle and you shake and shake and shake and shake and then pop the cork and whoosh, it all comes out. It's almost as if it's all in there, and then it's like the genie comes out of the bottle, or the champagne pours out of the bottle, and it's a very sort of 1 minute you're leading this what you might call an ordinary life. And the next minute, everything's come out, and you realize that you know so much and you can do so much, and this is the difference between a natural born medium and a medium who has to, you know, to study and to train. A natural born medium has all of these weird abilities. Many people have the ability to see, clairvoyance, we call it clairvoyance, to see further than. The word clairvoyance literally means to see further than or beyond a normal distance. So clairaudient means that you can hear. Claircognizance means that you are sensing in some way, or not sensing, but claircognizance means that it's, you know, it's sort of, you're getting these things in your head. Clairsentience means that you can connect through touch, and most people just have one or two of those senses finely tuned and are able to see, or perhaps not see but hear, or be able to feel or sense. You know, we call those people who sense, we call them sensitives. Some people call them sensitives, and it happens that for whatever reason, I've no idea, it's almost as if I've got the whole ball of wax there. Everything's going on. So I see, I hear, I sense, I am cognizant of what is going on. All of those things sort of rolled up into one little package, which means that perhaps when I'm working, my experiences can be very different than many people's experiences. And I do believe that having all of these abilities is what makes me able to deal with the fine detail and to see the fine details, and to be as I go back and down and through the whole, to stand there and to be the observer. It's almost as if I'm in it, but I can't do anything about it. I can't change anything, whether you're going back in time or whether you're going forward in time. You can't change anything when you're an observer. You simply cannot change it. You just have to watch it unfolding. And believe you me, that is not an easy thing to do. When you're standing in a house fire and you know that there are people burning, small children who are dying of smoke inhalation, and you can't, and you're simply the observer. What you have to remember in those cases is that that's already happened. You can't change what already happened. But when you see things in the future, I can remember once having my head in the washing machine sorting out my laundry, and I heard a voice clearly say to me, there's going to be a plane crash. And I sort of, yeah, I'm in doing my laundry, and so I always have the 3-time rule. So if I hear it once, okay. If I hear it twice, I'm better listen a bit. But if I hear it a third time, I know that it is something that is real, that is not my imagination. And I was frantic. I didn't know what to do about it, because I knew that it was something that was going to happen. But I also knew that I couldn't change it. And sure enough, the next day, this happened years ago. The next day, it was all over the news that the airplane had crashed. An airplane had crashed at Lockerbie Airport in England, and it was dreadful. It was a dreadful thing to happen. But when I heard what had happened and being told beforehand, it makes you feel, on the one hand, absolutely useless. What can you do? You're frantic to do anything. And but at the same time, it also makes you realize that there are certain things in life that are meant to be, and you cannot change them ever. There's nothing certain things that there's nothing you can do about, and it's inevitable. What has always amazed me, though, is how many police, the investigators into these things, why they don't come to see somebody like myself. Why don't they? Because we can, trust me, we can help with the investigation. We can help because we see all sorts of things. And I was involved in another plane crash where nobody knew what had happened. It was a mystery. until they spoke to me. And then the mystery was in fact solved because I was able to give details, smell the smoke prior to the plane crashing, and pinpoint where it all came from. It didn't prevent that plane crash, but it might help with something else. When people are lost, I remember not so long ago, perhaps only 4 or 5 years ago, I was invited onto a television show where there was a young woman who had gone missing, and her I was asked to go on a TV show, and would I speak to the parents of that person, which I did. And uh, I actually spoke with the father, and who was and I spoke to him in the green room afterwards. Talk about aggressive. He was so aggressive, and in a way I understand it. You're traumatized. Your child has gone missing, and here's this strange woman saying, I think I can help. And I actually drew a map of where I felt this that they could find this girl, who I knew in fact was already gone. And I drew the map, and I actually gave the map, the drawing and everything, to my agent, who sent it to the newspapers. And sure enough, a few days later, they actually printed a map which was identical to the map that I had drawn. Unfortunately, the girl had been murdered. There was nothing we could do about it. There's so many things that somebody like myself can see, can help with, and it's always amazed me that sometimes law enforcement does get in touch with me. Sometimes investigators do get in touch with me, and we're able to help, and in some small way or another. But it always amazes me. There's this amazing resource out there, and why aren't people using that? Is it because nobody wants to admit that there might be a truth in it, or they might be? I don't know. Chris, what do you think?
Well, as I'm sitting here, I do have relatives who are in law enforcement, and I think to myself, I think I'm going to send this video to them after the show just to put a bug in their ear. But
Well,
Mark says, Rosemary, I agree. Why don't the police and detectives contact you? You are the real deal. What you share doesn't come from you, but through you from Gray Eagle, who is the other side. I believe in you, dear heart. I will pray that the powers that are drawn to you, which will be of great service to humanity.
well, oh, bless you, Mark. But I do want to make it clear that I am not sitting here saying, why aren't you out there, or you investigators, why aren't you contacting me? Uh, there's a great resource here. There are so many people who can see, who have knowledge, who are sensitive. Um, the only problem is that I suppose, you know, I do remember quite clearly being on a major TV show, and um, uh, there had been other mediums on before me who had described somebody who'd abducted, I think it was to do with children, and their descriptions were so off and so out there. And the problem is that so many, if somebody were to put it in the newspapers, there are so many people out there who would uh, just, oh, I can do it, and try here and try there, and if you're not very careful, um, investigators can end up on a wild goose chase, because you know that obviously investigators have to confirm that somebody is real, as Mark just said, and there are others out there, not just me. So I'm not saying to law enforcement anywhere in the world, hey, contact me and I'll help, because I'm busy. But at the same time, why don't law enforcement use this resource? I did a TV show in Holland a few years ago, and the police, after the TV show, the mother of two missing young teenagers, uh, asked the TV show. She knew I was coming on. Could I help her? And not only did I help, and this is a TV show and it's live. I drew the place I drew the actual place where the young girl's body was found. The boy was never found. I drew the place. I described the railway tracks. I described the one shoe that had been left behind, and because unfortunately she was found naked, but there was one shoe left behind which the police found, and then none of this was public knowledge, and the police in that country did in fact contact me later on. But why, with we're supposed to be living in this enlightened age, so what's going on with all of you out there who need help? Don't be afraid to ask for it, is what I'm saying. Chris, if we're getting off, are we getting off topic here? This is turning out to be an odd show, don't you think?
Well, I think it goes the way it needs to. I want
Yeah.
to give you a heads up though, because you only have 10 minutes left.
Okay.
So do you want to go to questions or do you want to continue on the same path?
Just let's keep going.
All right. So Maggie says, I think in courts of law, using a medium is not a viable source of evidence. And Kathy says, if the cops are involved in a crime or know about the crime and who did the action, could you sense anything about where a person could go for help?
Well, yes, I do get lots of requests, and people like me do get lots of requests. But it's not about Maggie. You do raise a really good point. Um, this is not about me going in there and solving the crime, or somebody like me going in there and solving the crime. This is about helping law enforcement by describing what we see, by describing what happened. There was a young boy missing. The parents had lost this little boy. They'd gone to one of the Greek islands, and their little boy went missing. The parents, and in fact, a newspaper guy had heard about me, and he brought the mother, and first of all the mother, and then the mother and the mother-in-law of this little boy, and the information that was that I was able to give to them was so clear, so precise. I already knew at this point that the boy was gone. He was gone. But there were also other details about the family that nobody wanted to, the family actually stopped coming to see me. The reporter came to see me afterwards. If you're not careful, you uncover things that people don't want you to uncover. But at the same time, I'm not saying, and again, the detail was so precise, and some of the stuff, the detail was so precise and so clear. And you're not, as medium myself, I'm not here trying to solve a crime. I'm just saying these are the things that I see, and this is what I'm being told, and it's almost like a form of guidance to help the investigators to take that next step or the next step. They're not going to say can you stand up in court and give us evidence, because that's not what this is about. It's about what my question is, why aren't the investigators using people like me who do have certain knowledge and a certain ability to perhaps be of some help? I know that there is law enforcement out there that does that, because I've been approached on several occasions and have helped on several occasions. So I know that there are people, but why isn't it one of those, sort of automatic, I understand the skepticism, but when you can see, or if you can talk to a person who you can see is a real, why don't they use it, for goodness sakes? That's the frustrating part of the whole thing. Yeah, keep going, Chris.
Kathy says, how do you know if it's the future or if it's the past if it doesn't pertain to you?
Oh, well, good question, Kathy. Well, there is a difference. There's a very great difference, and I couldn't even begin to describe it to you. But when I am doing this sort of weird thing, going back and down and through the hole, and sort of traveling through the universe, there is a difference. You just know when you're going back in time, and you just know when you sort of looking more towards the future. There's just a great difference, and if I could explain it to you, I would. If I could explain what goes on within me and what happens within me, and Gregor is laughing even as I'm saying this, if I could explain to you how my mind works and how my brain works, I absolutely would. I would write it all down in detail. But there are some things which aren't, you can't explain, because the ideas and the concepts are foreign to most people. So even if I was able to explain it to you, it would almost be like I was talking a foreign language. Yes, Chris, do we have any questions? Anything else going on?
Oh, there's a ton going on, Rosemary. So I'm trying to keep with your theme of the show. So Maria says, love your story. We all seem to want to connect with our past loved ones, but there's this fear. I am so glad that you shared that you too have experienced this fear. It
Oh,
seems when you ask for a sign and all of a sudden something startles you, it shuts me right down instead of embracing it and asking for more. I say, maybe later. I'm not ready. What do you think
oh.
that finally made you say yes to your next adventure?
Well, I used to be just like you. I remember a student of mine coming to me once, and she was saying that she was in bed one night, and she felt the bed depress, as if somebody was sitting on the bed, and she looked over her shoulder at the and saw this lady sitting on a bed. She didn't know that this person. She saw this lady quite clearly. You would call it a ghost, right? She saw this sort of ghostly thing. She looked perfectly solid, perfectly ordinary, sitting on a bed. And of course, she dived under the covers. And then, as she dived under the covers, she's thinking to herself, "Now, hold on, hold on. What would Rosemary do?" So she took a leaf out of what she thought was my book. she sort of climbed out of the covers, and she tentatively said hello, and the lady smiled at her, and they had a very, very meaningful, incredible conversation. And she was very proud of herself. She wanted to tell me, I acted just like I knew you would. And I'm thinking to myself, no, I don't think so. Because I probably would have stayed under the covers, um, in the beginning, that is. And I can remember walking around the house in the beginning, saying to anybody who would listen, uh, "Hey, come on, show me a sign, give me a sign, show me something." And I would, all through the day, in the daylight, of course, all through the day, I'd be really brave, and I'd say, "Come on, just show me something." And then at night time, as I was getting into bed, and this went on for ages and ages, I would say, um, yeah, "But not tonight," because I was terrified. I'd grown up seeing all of this stuff. You would think I would be used to it, but I was so afraid. And of course, it didn't help that my grandmother was a voluntary patient in a psychiatric hospital, because she used to hear voices. And my mother would continually say to me, not every day, but at least once or twice a week, if you're not careful. And she meant it. If you're not careful, you'll end up like your grandma was, which implied that, to me, certainly, that she must think I was crazy. And then, with all of these weird things happening, I really believed that I was crazy. So I get it. The story that I was going to tell you this morning, first of all, was, it's a very scary story, and I will tell it one day. But then my grandson called and said, "What story are you telling today, Moses?" I couldn't tell him that one. I do get it. And even now, when something goes on, if I'm in bed, and I wake up, and there's someone around, it will startle me for a minute. And there are times when I won't say I get scared so much anymore, but I certainly can get anxious if I feel I don't know who's around, or if I feel, what's going on, or who is this who's come to see me, that sort of thing. It's scary stuff. So when you're out on Halloween, and don't think it happens only on Halloween, because it doesn't. But I get, you're entitled to be scared. I'm entitled to be scared. We're scared of the unknown, and that's, you know, and that's what it's all about. Yes, Chris.
So we have 12 o'clock here. Michael was the first one in with a question today. Do you want to
I'm
take that?
sorry, I can't hear you very well. We have 12 o'clock and
Michael had the first question right off this morning. Do you want to answer that?
absolutely.
Okay. Hello, Rosemary. Love the story time. Up until 10 years ago, I would be in an empty room and I would hear my name being called. The voice was not distinguishable as male or female. I know you cannot say for certain, but I believe it was probably a family member in the afterlife that was trying to communicate with me, but I did not realize it. Is this one way that the dead tries to communicate with people?
Michael, this is such a great question, and thank you so much for asking. Now, I can tell you, and you said I know you can't tell me, but I can tell you because Gregor can tell me. But yes, you are absolutely right that you do have people in the spirit world who are trying to connect with you. But here's a little detail, Michael, that you may not know, and it might make you feel, well, it should make you feel fabulous. When you hear your name being called, when a person hears their name being called, and you can hear it clearly, when you hear your name being called, it is one of the greatest accolades that you have that connection, that you're able to hear that this person is using every part of their energy, every little bit of themselves to tell you, I'm here, Michael, I'm here. It's an accolade. It shows how much that person in the spirit world loves you. It shows how much they want to connect with you. It shows just how tremendously you are loved. And so, absolutely, this is your family. Absolutely, if we had more time, we might be able to go into it a little bit more. But absolutely, when you hear your name, it is one of the greatest accolades that the spirit world can give to you. So, good for you, my darling. Let's take a couple more, Chris, and then, time is
Okay.
ticking on.
Jacqueline Ivy says, is the energy during a full moon, does it really affect the emotions in all of us?
Yes, I actually, my father-in-law was very affected. But, everything about this earth of ours and everything about this universe of ours is about energy. And we know that energy affects, the energy of the universe. We know that, it affects the tides. The moon affects the tides, whether the tide is coming in or going out. We know all of this. So is it at all surprising that if people are especially sensitive to that type of energy, it really can change their mood or their energy. My father-in-law, we would always know, this is true story, we would always know 2 or 3 days prior to the full moon when it was happening, because he became a bear. He was moody and anxious and just not a nice person. And then he would be fine again. And my mother-in-law would always say to me, that it's the full moon. He's made crazy by the full moon. It's actually the energy changing that can affect a lot of people. Yes.
One more, or are you done?
Yes.
Mark says, a dear colleague passed suddenly, and fortunately she didn't suffer long, which was a blessing. I did a special ceremony for her last evening with my spirit guide and G, my brother angel in heaven. Was Midge able to listen in? It was music and prayer for her children and her soul.
Without a doubt. Why are you asking me a question you know the answer to, young man? All right, I think, Chris, that we are done for the day. I'm so sorry. I can see lots and lots of people already, wanting. If you want to know more about tickets for our next webinar, we are going to be, it says a weird thing, it says we're going to be taking down the wall. That basically means that we all of us have emotional traumas and we all of us hide behind the wall. How many times have you had a relationship with someone and you can't get through, or they don't, you know, their emotions are stuck or something, or it can be happening to you? What do you do about it? So in this next webinar, we're going to be talking about healing yourself, how to take down the wall. What do you do? And I'm going to be giving you exercise. I'm going to be teaching you all sorts of stuff in this webinar. That is on the 21st or 2nd, is it, Chris? The 21st of November. You can, Chris is going to put up a link. You can click on the link and get your tickets there, or go to Eventbrite for tickets. Remember the competition. If you share, and whatever else Chris told you to do, tag me and share. And there was one other thing, I do believe, Chris.
Like it, share it, and tag you.
Yeah. Then you'll be eligible for a free ticket. And if you've already bought your ticket to this webinar, guess what we're doing in December? Angels, angels, angels. And boy, do I have some stuff for you. I'm going to tell you all about angels, different types of angels, what angels do, what they don't do, what we can expect from them. I'm going to teach you how you too can be an angel in training. We're going to be talking angels, angels, angels all the way. You know, you can either, if you've already bought your ticket and your name is pulled out of the hat, we can give you a refund on that ticket, or you can just simply put it to the next webinar that we have, which is in December. And we're going to be doing a whole series of webinars next year also, so watch out for those. If you need to know more about me, please email me, rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. Put your subject in the subject line, please. And what else, Chris? We shall be definitely back here next Thursday with The Spirit World Sees All, and I shall be writing articles. I think I mentioned it on LinkedIn and various other places. You might learn something about me that you never knew. Wow, that could be interesting, wouldn't it? So we're all over the place. So if I could just say thank you, Chris, for once again being a superstar. I'd like to thank my spirit guide, Gregor, also, and most especially, I'd like to thank all of you for joining me on Storytime. I hope you learned a lot today. I hope you were inspired today. And if you've got any ideas for any stories, or you have a story to tell, I'd love to tell your story too. So share with us. And don't forget to share this video, to share it everywhere around as much as you can, because that's what we want you to do. So until I see you again, please have a very, very blessed rest of the day, and have a very blessed weekend, everybody.